evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Eagle News International. On tonight's headlines. In Paris, police are investigating a shooting attack that left 3 people dead at a Kurdish cultural center. And breaking news tonight, the historic winter storm crippling holiday travel in the U.S. and knocking out power across the country as a severe winter storm walloped the country, causing highway closures and thousands of flight cancellations. And officials say 500,000 people in a single Chinese city are being infected with COVID-19 every day. And AFP journalists in the city this week witnessed hospitals overflowing with mostly elderly COVID patients and dozens of bodies being unloaded at crematoriums. An infectious disease expert says the Philippines should continue observing and monitoring the COVID situation in China, saying widespread spike of COVID cases there may pose a global implication. First to Paris, where police are investigating a shooting attack that left 3 people dead at a Kurdish cultural center. Witnesses told AFP that the gunman, a white Frenchman with a history of racist violence, initially targeted the Kurdish cultural center before entering a hairdressing salon where he was arrested. Let's listen in.
Il n'est pas sûr d'ailleurs que le Turc qui a voulu assassiner ces personnes et dont le doute ne fait pas beaucoup état qu'il ait voulu assassiner des personnes ici à Paris, l'ait fait spécifiquement pour les Kurdes. Il a voulu manifestement s'en prendre à des étrangers. Nous devons savoir par l'enquête judiciaire que préside Madame la procureure de la République de savoir si c'était spécialement sur les Kurdes, mais pour l'instant aucun élément ne permet de le savoir.
Il y a 3 hommes, mais j'ai vu 3 blessés, 2 jeunes. Un, apparemment, il travaille dans le salon de coiffure, et les 2 autres, je ne les connais pas. Et j'ai vu le tireur, parce qu'on l'a interpellé, on l'a neutralisé, je l'ai vu le tireur. Donc, tout ce que j'ai vu, j'ai rien d'autre.
The alleged shooter, named as William M. in the French media, is a gun enthusiast with a history of weapons offenses who had been released on bail earlier this month. The Kurdish Community Center, called Center Ahmed Kaya, is used by a charity that organizes concerts and exhibitions and helps the Kurdish diaspora in the Paris region. And within hours of the attack, Kurdish protesters clashed with police. Demonstrators threw objects at police while voicing fury over the attack they saw as deliberate, in which they said French security services had done too little to prevent. Often described as the world's largest people without a state, the Kurds are a Muslim ethnic group spread across Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. And more breaking news tonight, the historic winter storm crippling holiday travel in the United States and knocking out power across the country as a severe winter storm walloped the country, causing highway closures and thousands of flight cancellations. Again, let's listen in.
Because this is an epic statewide hazard. There's no other way to describe this than this is having an impact everywhere. And coastal flooding up to 3 feet in parts of Long Island, New York City, but more rain is coming there. This was not a rain flooding event. This was a coastal flooding event, which is very different. We've had the flash freeze. What is a flash freeze? Everything west of I-81, that Syracuse line, is already hit, and if you're east of I-81, it is still coming, and it won't thaw out for at least 24 hours. This is what makes the roads so treacherous.
The fact that we have gusty winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour can create blizzard-like conditions very quickly in different places and are leading to a number of accidents and at least 1 fatality across the Commonwealth. Stay inside. Stay off the roads. The last-second shopping is not worth it if it would cost you your life. It's the difference between negative 20 to 30 in wind chill and negative 10 to 20, which it'll be tonight and then tomorrow in wind chill. That's the difference between getting frostbite in 20 to 30 minutes or 30 to 40 minutes. It will be dangerously cold through tomorrow.
Some 240 million Americans, 70% of the population, were under winter warnings as wind chills brought temperatures down as low as minus 55 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 48 degrees Celsius, according to the National Weather Service. Transportation departments in North and South Dakota, Oklahoma, Iowa, and elsewhere reported near zero visibility whiteouts, ice-covered roads, and blizzard conditions, and strongly urged residents to stay home. Meteorologist Kelsey McCowan in Toronto tweeted that waves of up to 26 feet have been reported in Lake Erie, while in Ohio's Fairport Harbor, winds gusted to 74 miles per hour or 120 kilometers per hour. And the week before the holidays, this monster storm is grounding air travel. The airport in Buffalo completely shut down. Across the U.S., thousands of travelers are stranded.
It's just, with the weather, it's just kind of anxious if anything's going to cancel or be delayed, and then how long we're going to kind of wait here to make sure that she takes off on time.
Well, the winds, we've been really concerned about flights being delayed or canceled. Thankfully, that's not the case so far, but we've just been anxious about getting our whole family here on time and, you know, trying to see family that we haven't seen in many years due to COVID.
Did you change?
A couple of days ago, when we heard there's a storm coming, we changed from Friday to Thursday, like today.
Are you going on vacation? Are you going to meet family? Or are you?
Yeah, we're going to meet family in California.
Did you change your flight to come in earlier to beat the weather?
Yes. Actually, I was supposed to fly out like 7:30 tonight, and then we saw the weather and figured we had to get on an earlier flight so we didn't get stuck for 2 days someplace.
Coast to coast, damaging winds and a brutal Arctic chill, canceling flights by the thousands. More than 4,500 U.S. flights were already canceled Friday, and another 5,900 delayed, according to tracking website FlightAware, many at international hubs, New York, Seattle, and Chicago's O'Hare. Customer service for O'Hare just stretched for hours. In Nashville, baggage system has been frozen for hours, creating a backlog. American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines had already taken steps to issue weather waivers to allow passengers to change their flights without fees. Blinding whiteouts and hazardous road conditions were already being seen in parts of the country, and the American Automobile Association estimated that more than 112 million people will travel 50 miles or more from home between Friday and January 2, and the vast majority of them, 102 million, by car. Meanwhile, the Filipino community in the United States is advised to monitor and make necessary preparations as the powerful snowstorm sweeps through the central and eastern areas. At least 13 weather-related fatalities were reported in Oklahoma, Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Ohio as the storm engulfs and brings dangerously cold wind chills. The Philippine Embassy in Washington, D.C. advises Filipino communities on the massive winter storm to monitor the weather, undertake all necessary preparations, and heed the warnings of local officials, according to the embassy in an advisory today. The National Weather Service warned that the wind chill would cover nearly half of the U.S. population as a once-in-a-generation storm brings snow, wind, ice, and frigid temperatures through the holiday weekend. Blizzard conditions could reduce visibility to zero, and the public is now advised to refrain from going out unless absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, AccuWeather forecasters have said the storm could rapidly strengthen into what is known as a bomb cyclone. So what is a bomb cyclone? A bomb cyclone is simply a storm that intensifies very rapidly. Bomb cyclones form when air near Earth's surface rises quickly in the atmosphere, triggering a sudden drop in barometric pressure, at least 24 millibars within 24 hours. Meteorologists have likened the sudden drop in pressure to bomb going off, using words such as explosive cyclogenesis and bombogenesis to describe the storm's formation process. Though it might not sound like it, bomb cyclone is a legitimate scientific term. Such storms crop up at least once a year in the U.S., sometimes with devastating consequences. Our U.S. correspondent Carlo Valdez gives us tips on how to prevent hypothermia and frostbite. Carlo.
Winter weather and the very cold temperatures it brings may cause two dangerous but preventable conditions: hypothermia and frostbite. CDC says hypothermia is caused by prolonged exposures to very cold temperatures that eventually use up your body's stored energy. This leads to lower body temperature that affects the brain, making the victim unable to think clearly or move well. Signs of hypothermia include shivering, confusion, memory loss, slurred speech, and drowsiness. If not able to get medical help right away, the health agency recommends trying to warm the person up. Get the person into a warm room or shelter. Remove any wet clothing the person is wearing. Warm the center of the person's body, chest, neck, head, and groin using a warm blanket if available. Skin-to-skin contact under loose, dry layers of blankets, clothing, towels, or sheets will also help. Meanwhile, frostbite is a type of injury caused by freezing. It leads to a loss of feeling and color in the areas it affects. Areas are usually extremities, such as the nose, ears, cheeks, chin, fingers, and toes. If immediate medical care is unavailable, you can help someone experiencing frostbite by also getting the person into a warm room as soon as possible, not letting the person walk on feet or toes that show signs of frostbite because this increases the damage, not rubbing or massaging the frostbitten area with snow. You can also put the areas affected by frostbite in warm, not hot, water. If warm water is not available, warm the affected areas using body heat like an armpit to warm frostbitten fingers. Because affected areas are numb and can easily burn, you should not use a heating pad, heat lamp, or the heat of a stove, fireplace, or radiator for warming. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, says being prepared is the best defense against having to deal with extremely cold weather. Knowing what to do is an important part of protecting one's health and that of others. Carlo Valdez, Union, New Jersey. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, Carlo. Meanwhile, in Japan, heavy snowfall has left at least 8 people dead, according to national broadcaster NHK, reporting this on Friday and citing Japan's Fire and Disaster Management Agency. The heavy snow across northern and western part of the country has prompted weather officials to call on residents to stay alert for winter blizzards. Japan is currently being subjected to winter pressure patterns, where the weather agency now warning of traffic disruptions, snowstorms, and high waves, according to Kyodo News. According to Kyodo News, the Japan Meteorological Agency said it expects the rough weather to continue through to Monday, moving from the country's north and east to the west. And streets of the city of Mecca have been engulfed by rushing waters following torrential rains across several governorates of Saudi Arabia. Video footage of the flash flood shows vehicles being swept away by torrents of water, while several main roads were also closed off. King Abdulaziz Airport in Jeddah asked that travelers call to confirm the status of their flights before heading out to the airport, as some flights were expected to be canceled due to the weather conditions. The Meteorology Center also warned about flooding and thunderstorms accompanied by heavy rains in the Jeddah Governorate north of Mecca. In November, 2 people died in floods that swept across the coastal city of Jeddah due to record rain levels. And a deadly plane crash into a California beach. Take a look at the shocking sight on this beach. A single-engine plane crashed onto the shoreline of Santa Monica Pier and then flipping upside down. Officials say the passenger on board, the city's 95-year-old former mayor, was killed. Federal Aviation Administration spokesman Ian Gregor said an investigation is now underway. He also said the pilot reported engine issues after departing from Santa Monica Airport. The pilot was freed from the wreckage, and we'll give you more updates as we get more developments from this story. And to China now, where a rapid surge of COVID infections is overwhelming hospitals across the country. Some health experts predict that China could suffer up to 1 million COVID deaths in the next few months, and this outbreak could also threaten the global economy. But first, let's listen in.
WHO is very concerned over the evolving situation in China, with increasing reports of severe disease. In order to make a comprehensive risk assessment of the situation on the ground, WHO needs more detailed information on disease severity, hospital admissions, and requirements for ICU support. WHO is supporting China to focus its efforts on vaccinating people at the highest risk across the country.
In the case of China, as they've lifted some restrictions with the variant as infectious as Omicron, vaccination is the exit strategy in that sense from the impact of a wave of Omicron. This has been shown in other countries in Asia, like Japan, in Singapore, in Korea. We're achieving higher rates of vaccination, particularly in the poor, in the vulnerable, has resulted in the impact of Omicron waves being much less on the health system. So that's proven. That's not something that's just speculation. There's clear data from the experience of other countries. The rates of vaccination in China, while on the face of it, are high, they still lag behind in terms of overall coverage, particularly when you look at people over 60, particularly when you look at full vaccination, which I think in the case of the available Chinese vaccines would likely be 3 doses of vaccine as a primary course, not 2 plus a booster. And I think we're talking, protective efficacies of hovering at 50% or less for those 2-dose regimes in someone over 60. That's just not adequate protection in a population as large as the population of China.
At the same time, it's also very important for all countries, including China, to focus on people getting vaccinated, making testing and treatment available, and, importantly, sharing information with the world about what they're experiencing. Again,
emergency rooms are filled and overflowing. Staff in full PPEs are hard-pressed to find enough beds, and the crematoriums work 24/7 non-stop while hearses wait outside. It's almost 3 weeks since Chinese government abruptly lifted its zero-COVID strategy, doing away with snap lockdowns, lengthy quarantines, and travel curbs. But the end of strict testing mandates has made caseloads virtually impossible to track, according to officials. A news outlet operated by the ruling Communist Party in Qingdao on Friday reported the municipal health chief as saying that the eastern city was seeing between 490,000 and 530,000 new COVID cases a day. The report was shared by several other news outlets, but appeared to have been edited by Saturday morning to remove the case figures. China's National Health Commission said Saturday that 4,103 new domestic infections were recorded nationwide the previous day, with no new deaths. In Shandong, the province where Qingdao is located, authorities officially logged just 31 new domestic cases. Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning says that the epidemic situation in China is generally predictable and controllable as a response to U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken's call on China to share information on its COVID outbreak. He said its surging caseload had impacted the world. Take a look.
With the COVID situation entering a new phase, we have taken the initiative to refine the response measures to make them more up-to-date scientifically, more targeted and more effective. The State Council's Joint Prevention and Control Mechanism has held several press conferences on this. We have seen rising vaccination rates, strengthened treatment capacity, and expanded production capacity of medical supplies, which at the moment are generally in adequate supply. China's COVID situation is on the whole predictable and under control. We believe that with the concerted efforts of the Chinese people, we will soon enter a new stage of stable and orderly social-economic growth. China has always shared information responsibly with the WHO and the international community. We stand ready to work with the world in solidarity to better tackle the COVID challenge, protect people's life and health, and jointly restore steady economic growth and build a global community of health for all.
The Philippines should continue observing and monitoring the COVID situation in China. That is according to an infectious disease expert. At the Laging Handa briefing, Dr. Ronjean Solante stressed its importance, considering that a possible widespread of COVID cases in China may pose a global implication. Let's listen in.
Hindi pa sila talaga nadaanan ng mga different variants of concern like Delta and lately Omicron. And if you look at the current subvariant or the variants of concern na nakikita ngayon sa China, it's the BF.7, which is a subvariant of BA.5. So itong mga variants na to, dumadaan na to sa mga ibang bansa, no? Including the Philippines. Kumbaga nadaanan na natin yung ganitong mga klaseng surge na ngayon pa lang nila na dadaanan. They're using their own Chinese-made vaccine na medyo mababa din ang efficacy kumpara mo doon sa mga Pfizer or Moderna or mRNA vaccines. Booster, I think they are now considering using the mRNA of the Western vaccines. Kung ano talaga ang situation ngayon sa China, because that is an information that we don't have very accurate info at this point in time. Now, in the event na kung talaga mag-declare ang China na meron na silang big wave of this COVID infection, then I think hindi lang sa Philippines ang magiging implikasyon niya, no? It will have a global implications also because China is a big country with a very big place in the economic arena, no? At maraming travelers yan. We need to observe further, we need to study, if we need to do a border control, but I think that will be one of the possibilities na kung kailangan man natin, we have to look into that in terms of meron bang advantage or merong disadvantage.
Earlier, as we heard, the World Health Organization expressing concerns over the increasing number of severe COVID cases in China. And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be back.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
mo, curious ako sa mga kasama mo sa office. Magkwento ka nga.
Si Mr. Chan, bakit ang sama ng lahat ng lalaking gwapo? Masama siya at may mga masamang balak siya sa sarili niyang kapatid.
Pero, kaya ba ni Sanem i-deny ang kakaibang nararamdaman niya? Girl, baka naman kasi mali ang impression mo.
Ready ka na?
Sundan sa Daydreamer. Monday to Friday, 7:30 p.m. Dito lang sa Net 25.
Panalo tayo pag together. Walang talo pag together. Let's get together. Sa Net 25.
Dito sa UAE especially, they love Filipino. Kasi you work more than they expect.
Actually, the Filipino communities here are very supportive. All the entrepreneurs here, binibigyan nila ng training how to handle businesses in Dubai. Not only in Dubai, but specifically in the UAE.
As you can see, perhaps, when you go to the streets, there's a lot of economic activity going on. And of course, for many of these companies, they rely on Filipinos as, to run their offices, shops, to provide all kinds of services.
You know, Dubai is a vibrant city. There is so much potential in the market. Women, they spend so much money in fashion.
Open for business with Cesar Vallejos. Sunday, 9 p.m.
Bakit ka may picture nito? Bakit may picture ka ng pamilya ni Mary?
Ang paghahanap sa katotohanan.
Alam ang kinaroroonan. Pakiusap. Pakidial po ang mga numero na nasa screen ninyo ngayon.
Ano bang gusto niyong gawin ko sa kanya?
Turuan mo siya ng leksyon na wag guluhin ang aking pamilya.
Ang magdadala ng kapahamakan. Two sisters.
Panalo tayo pag together. Walang talo pag together. Let's get together. Sa Net 25.
Welcome back. A fire erupted overnight in a private illegal nursing home in the Siberian city of Kemerovo, killing 22 people. 6 more were injured. 2 of them were hospitalized and are in a serious condition with burns, according to authorities. The Russian state-run news agency TASS said the fire spread over 180 square meters in a 2-story wooden building. In a video released by the emergency services, a long row of emergency vehicles lined up outside the burning building. Firefighters tackled flames which sent plumes of smoke into the night sky. Images released by emergency services showed the building later completely burned out. Russia's investigative committee, which investigates major crimes, said it opened an investigation into causing death by negligence. In 2018, a fire in a shopping mall in Kemerovo killed 60 people, including children and teenagers. In tonight's other news, North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles, according to Seoul's military, the latest in a flurry of sanctions-busting weapons tests. The launch comes at the end of a year that has seen Pyongyang conduct an unprecedented number of tests, including last month's launch of its most advanced intercontinental ballistic missile yet, with a range capable of hitting the U.S. mainland. Earlier this week, Pyongyang also claimed to have deployed new capabilities to take images from space. The 2 missiles flew around 250 kilometers and 350 kilometers, respectively, before splashing down into the East Sea, it added. Tokyo also confirmed Pyongyang's launch, with its top government spokesman, Hirokazu Matsuno, calling the North's latest provocations absolutely unacceptable. The United States and South Korea have warned for months that Pyongyang is preparing to conduct its 7th nuclear test. An impassioned Senate approved the resolution denouncing what it described as China's bullying in the West Philippine Sea. In a privileged speech, Senator Francis Tolentino showed footage of an incident near Pag-asa Island last month when a Chinese Coast Guard vessel forcefully took what's believed to be rocket debris retrieved by the Philippine Navy. First, let's listen in.
How else can we help the Philippine Navy, the fisher folks, not just in Palawan, in all coastal areas, and every Filipino living today and in the future, because, as you yourself have said, the effective implementation of the Hague ruling is our duty, and it is the least we could do for the next generation of Filipinos. Aside from the note verbal, aside from privileged speeches, ano pa po ang kailangan natin gawin para tigilan ng ating kaibigan na malaking bansa sa Asia ang kanilang pang-aabuso at hindi pagsunod sa isang maliwanag na ruling na dapat nilang respetuhin. Bawal ang bully sa mundo.
I'm aware that the other side is listening, but
I want them to hear it. That's why I am making my voice loud and clear.
Mr. President,
I'm not saying it was a bully. Bawal ang bully. Kung sino ang matamaan, silang masaktan.
Aside from setting up territorial defense in the West Philippine Sea against harassment and incursions of Chinese vessels, the Philippines should also protect and preserve maritime biodiversity, according to the senator. The senator also said agencies like the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources must intensify their presence in the Kalayaan Island. In November, the Chinese Coast Guard interfered in the retrieval of space debris that fell within the territorial sea near Pag-asa Island. This was after Philippine personnel earlier detected the space debris within the country's territorial waters. A retrieval operation took place, but a Chinese Coast Guard boat deliberately interfered and cut the towing line to forcibly take the space debris. In other news, Russian President Vladimir Putin dismissed an announcement from the U.S. that it will provide Ukraine with its advanced Patriot air defense system to help counter aerial attacks. The Ukrainian leader, meanwhile, has returned from a historic trip to Washington, where he told Congress his country was alive and kicking and supporting. It was an investment in global security. First, let's listen in.
Маємо чудові новини, з якими я повертаюся додому. Президент Байден сьогодні оголосив про новий пакет військової допомоги Україні обсягом біля $2 мільярдів. І найсильнішим елементом цього пакету є комплекс Patriot, те, що суттєво посилить нашу протиповітряну оборону. Це важливий крок у створении дієвого повітряного щита для Украины.
Ну, а что касается патриотов, это достаточно старая система. И она не работает, так скажем, как наша С-300. Но, тем не менее, ведь те, кто нам противостоит, исходят из того, что это якобы оборонительное оружие. Ну, ладно. Мы просто будем иметь это в виду. И противоядие всегда найдется. Так что те, кто это делают это зря. Это просто затягивание конфликта. Вот и все.
Again, President Putin warning this could further draw out the conflict, saying those who are confronting us say this is a defensive weapon. There will always be an antidote, and the people who are doing this are doing it in vain, and it's just prolonging the conflict. That's all, he said. U.S. President Joe Biden committed nearly $1.8 billion in military supplies, including for the first time the Patriot missile defense system. In tonight's other news, French serial killer Charles Sobhraj, responsible for multiple murders in the 70s across Asia, was due to arrive, or has arrived in France today after almost 20 years in prison in Nepal. He told AFP on Friday that he was innocent of the 2 murders in Nepal that he served almost 20 years for in prison. First, let's listen in.
When I came in, I didn't do anything. And that case that I was in, the UN Rights Committee, they have declared that they are in violation of ICC. I am innocent in those cases. Okay? So I don't have to feel bad for that. For good. I'm innocent. It was based on the fake documents.
Sobhraj, whose life was chronicled in the Netflix series The Serpent, was linked to more than 20 murders across Asia in the 70s by drugging their food and drinks he then stole from them. In October 1975, the body of a young woman is found on a Thai beach in Pattaya wearing a bikini. Other victims follow, beaten, strangled, or burned to death. Sobhraj, who will become known as the Bikini Killer, allegedly uses his victims' passports for mysterious trips linked to trade in precious stones and drugs. Under a cloud of suspicion, he flees to India. In July 1976, he's arrested in India after trying to drug a group of more than 20 French tourists in a New Delhi hotel. In the late 1985, India agrees to Thailand's request to extradite Sobhraj for the murders of a Turkish tourist and a young American woman, Teresa Knowlton. He risks the death penalty there. He then escapes from jail in New Delhi in March 1986 by feeding drug-laced sweets to his guards. He is recaptured 3 weeks later in a Goa restaurant. But delays in the Indian legal system mean the prison break case doesn't come to trial for several years, by which time Thai authorities have lost interest in having him extradited. By the time he leaves Indian jails, his alleged crimes have fallen under the statute of limitations in Thailand. Nicknamed the Serpent for his skill in slipping and sliding out of the judicial dragnet, Sobhraj then returns to Nepal to set up a shawl export company under a false identity. He's quickly recognized and arrested in Kathmandu for the 1975 murders of 2 tourists, a Canadian backpacker, Laurent Armand Carrier, and American Connie Joe Bronsic. He receives a life sentence in August 2004. Nepal's top court ordered him released this week on health grounds and said he should be sent back to France. While on board his flight, as we heard there, he tells AFP he thinks he has been wrongly described as a serial killer. And nearly half a century after he sowed fear along the 1970s hippie trail, French serial killer Charles Sobhraj, the serpent of the hit TV drama Serial, still haunts the lives of those who crossed his path. Let's listen in.
Les amis sont toujours les bienvenus à la maison.
What's wrong with us?
I work for the Dutch embassy.
Their families haven't heard from them in over 2 months.
Yes?
I look for the Google about everything about Charlie. And I want to know about the house, about what happened here. And I saw the internet and Sukhumvit 4, and I want to go there.
Le moment le plus terrifiant pour moi, ça a été quand je me suis retrouvée dans l'ascenseur avec eux, quand ils m'ont rappelé à la maison. On était tous les 3 dans cette petite cabine et mon cœur battait la chamade. Je l'entendais moi-même, mon cœur. Et j'étais sûr qu'il l'entendait aussi. Et que si j'avais mon cœur qui battait comme ça, c'est que j'avais quelque chose sur la conscience. Donc j'avais peur.
I was annoyed, but what can you do?
nobody can blame me. No, nobody. Nobody blame me because I did my best. And I saved the police department face because the transportation make a mess.
Nobody has ever caught me. I expected to feel great guilt. I did not. I felt free.
A national homelessness charity has opened its holiday services, starting with 3 hotels across London that will accommodate hundreds of people who would otherwise be sleeping rough this holiday season. Ryan Florentino reports from our UK bureau.
UK homelessness charity Crisis has taken over 3 hotels across London to accommodate more than 400 people who would otherwise be sleeping rough over the festive period.
Yeah, so homelessness really is the sharpest end of the cost of living crisis. And we're seeing the people coming to us in greater numbers who just simply can't afford their rent. Rents have gone up really, really fast over the last year. But people's ability to pay that rent hasn't, particularly if you rely on benefits to do that. And, you know, we're seeing people who are saying to us, I never thought this would happen to me. You know, really quickly losing a job, then really quickly losing a tenancy, having to live in a car or sleep on someone's sofa or even go around on public transport. And before you know it, you're sleeping on the streets.
Those staying in the hotels will have their own room and 3 meals a day, and will also receive healthcare and specialist advice on housing, work and benefits. Let's have a listen to Matt Downey, Chief Executive at Crisis Charity.
Yeah, the most immediate priority for government should be reinstating the true value of housing benefit, which is the way in which people can meet that spiralling cost of rent, because they've frozen those benefits for the last 3 years. And that's a fast track to homelessness for many, many people on low incomes. There are longer term answers to do with having enough housing and various other things, but right now it's housing benefit. That's the real issue.
The charity Crisis analysis shows that the poorest 10% of single households are spending on average 149% of their monthly post-tax income on rent, energy and food, with just the basic cost of living now pushing people beyond the brink into unsustainable debt. The charity is warning that thousands more people could be made homeless and many forced onto the street.
The hotels will be running for 2 weeks. They'll be running through from now till the 5th of January. And in one of our hotels, we have some bed spaces that will be available for another 3 weeks in January, because we're able to identify guests who are staying with us where if we have slightly longer to work with them, we can find a real long-term solution to their homelessness problem.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Ryan Florentino. Stay safe, for we live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, Ryan. Meanwhile, travelers passing through King's Cross Station in the British capital ahead of a strike on the holidays that will see rail journeys stop from mid-afternoon until December 27. Again, let's listen in.
4 days, and we were supposed to be there for 5 days, but because of the strike, we came to London a day early.
No, I booked around the strikes. Common sense. And I know for some people that's not possible, and that's sad. But as I say, a strike is pointless if it has no effect on people.
Railway workers will stage another strike from mid-afternoon Saturday, which is today, until early Tuesday, while highways and postal staff are also in the midst of walkouts. The past year has seen a wave of industrial action, from dock workers to lawyers, as decades-high inflation erodes earnings. Public sector employees are furious. The government is refusing to discuss increasing pay after years of wage stagnation and a cost of living crisis fueled by inflation running at nearly 11%. Now, NASA said farewell to the InSight lander that spent 4 years probing the interior of Mars. Take a look. The U.S. Space Agency said Mission Control had been unable to contact the spacecraft on 2 consecutive attempts, leading to the conclusion that its solar-powered batteries have run out of energy. InSight may be retiring, but its legacy and its findings from the deep interior of Mars will live on, according to NASA. The space agency said it will continue to listen for a signal from the lander, which last communicated with Earth a week ago, but is considered unlikely after months of Martian dust accumulated on its 2 solar panels, sapping its power. InSight was one of 4 missions currently on the Red Planet, along with the U.S. rovers Perseverance and Curiosity and China's Zhurong. Seismic waves varying based on the materials they pass through offer a picture of the interior of the planet. For example, scientists were able to confirm that the core of Mars is liquid and to determine the thickness of the Martian crust, less dense than previously thought and likely consisting of 3 layers. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, has finalized the strongest ever national clean air standards to cut smog and soot-forming emissions from heavy-duty trucks. The agency claims the rule could result in various health benefits by 2045, including less asthma, fewer deaths, fewer emergency room visits. Melissa Potas reports from Washington, D.C.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, finalizes national clean air standards to cut smog and soot-forming emissions from heavy-duty trucks. EPA calls these standards, which begin with model year 2027, the strongest ever. This is the first update to clean air standards for heavy-duty trucks in more than 20 years. EPA says the new standards are more than 80% stronger than current ones. The final standards will reduce deadly smog and soot from new heavy-duty trucks. The agency predicts that by 2045, the Clean Trucks Plan will result in, but not limited to, up to 2,900 fewer premature deaths, 6,700 fewer hospital admissions and emergency department visits, 18,000 fewer cases of childhood asthma, 78,000 fewer lost days of work, and 1.1 million fewer lost school days for children. EPA says this is just the first action under EPA's Clean Trucks Plan to pave the way toward a zero-emission future. At present, an estimated 72 million people live near truck freight routes in America. This number includes the country's most vulnerable populations in historically overburdened communities. Melissa Potas, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, Melissa. Now let's come along with Hong Kong correspondent Kit Wong on her latest trip to Romania. She will also take us 208 meters deep underground to the salt mine Slanich, branded the largest in Europe and the place with the purest air on the planet. Kit.
After 2 years of strict travel restrictions around the world due to pandemic, I have visited my daughter once again here in Bucharest, Romania. Bucharest is the capital of Romania and one of the European destinations giving the nickname Paris of the East or Little Paris. Tourists like us should see and taste Romanian food that fits your budget in the center of city named the Old Town. Many streets like Sobhraj or Convazi is loaded with restaurants and souvenir shops. You will also find in the Old Town beautiful buildings and elegant architecture designed and built during the 18th and 19th century for they all have similar in some ways in other European countries. To the north, 166 kilometers from Bucharest, another city destination is Brazil. You will enjoy beautiful scenic view of this historical city of Romania, where its national anthem was first sung. Romania is famous for its beautiful towns, fortified churches. One of the most beautiful castles is the Palace Castle, located near Sinaia. It was built for the Romanian royalty, which is now a museum.
Let's go!
But did you know that Romania has the largest salt mine in Europe? The Sinaitic mine, located in Sinaitic Prahorus country of Romania, 100 kilometers north of Bucharest, also called as Mina Iulerea. The Iulerea salt mine was started in 1948, and the exploitation of the salt from here was performed between 1943 to 1970. Since 1970, the mine has become a tourist attraction offering an exceptional natural conditions as a result of its microclimate, which some believe effective in treating respiratory disease. The temperature here during the whole year is 12 degrees Celsius. The base of this mine from the surface is 208 meters. Elevator was used by tourists with a 19-second ride, though this elevator has been out of order since 2014. Since then, many ones are used to send visitors up and down in a spiral tunnel inside this massive mine. Iulerea mine has a dimension of 10 meters opening in the ceiling and 32 meters to the ground and a height of 54 meters with a wall inclination angle of 60 degrees. Throughout the mine, you will find various recreational activities such as playground and some table games and a souvenir shop. After my trips to these wonderful sites above and below the ground, I will never forget to visit my friends too.
From all of the brethren here in Bucharest, GWS, District of Northern Europe, here in the country of Romania, we would like to greet all of the brethren around the world. Keep safe, and we live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, Kit. As always, I'll end the week on a thoughtful note. Our ability to look back and smile at our past is proof that God's plan is to keep us moving forward. This has been Eagle News International. I'm Alma Angeles. Stay alert, stay informed, because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.